Hello, welcome to our channel, Cine and Truth. I'm Isabella.
And I'm Eve.
Hi, I'm glad you're here with us today. Eve is here to discuss a book that I think you all will find very interesting. It is The Life of Jesus. In a way that we're not usually used to seeing it. It's not going to be exactly followed by the Bible, but I will let Eve introduce that book for you.
Yeah, so the book is called The Secret Book of Jesus. It's basically a massive endeavor that was done by Daniel Meurois, a French author. And basically it is telling in great details the complete life of Yeshua. We're not going to call it Jesus, we're going to use the original names that he was having, which is Yeshua. And we will go basically from his birth all the way to his death. And as you're going to see, if you are staying with us for all the different podcasts we will be doing, his life is quite different from what has been told in the official scriptures, the Bible.
So can you tell us why these books are different from the myriad of books already written on this subject?
So most of the books have been written, by basically taking very old scriptures or even scrolls. They have been translated multiple times. Basically, it's just hearsay. Nobody living with Yeshua has been capable of writing down his life. There was only one disciple, John, who was capable of writing at this time. He was educated and he was capable of writing, in Latin and in Greek, mostly in Greek.
Because back then, not too many people were able to write.
Yeah, nobody went to school.
Almost a privilege to
exactly.
be able to write.
Nobody went to school. So
yeah.
John himself actually was not directly writing. He was using one of his friend or disciple to write for him. Okay.
So he had a scribe.
He had a scribe, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not because he couldn't write, it was just
No, because
easier.
it was easier for him because
Yeah.
he was talking or teaching as a people,
Right.
and then the scribe would transcribe, everything he was saying. There is another person, Paul, who was very educated. He was a scholar, a pundit, and he has been writing a lot of stuff about Yeshua. Without ever meeting him. So that's quite interesting.
Yes.
And basically, our Bible is founded on that, because none of the disciples could write. So you have to think about where this knowledge from the Bible, which is so revered and so respected, comes from. So to get back to the books basically has been written using a technique which very, very few human beings are capable of. And this is about astral traveling, astral plane traveling, and the reading of the Akashic Records.
Okay, let's hold off for just a minute here because some people might not know what astral traveling is. So if you could explain that.
Well, astral traveling is actually something that we all do without knowing. Actually, it's a necessary function of the human being. It's an intermediary between your physical body and your spiritual body. And astral traveling is taking place every night, usually when you dream. You may not remember it. Most of the time, we don't remember our dreams, or they are not. They are transcribed by our brain and our mind in a certain way to make it actually sometimes very confusing and very difficult to understand. But that's how it is. So astral traveling takes place every night when you sleep and when you go into a deep sleep, when you dream and sleep very deeply.
So through this process, he's able to locate the Akashic Records?
Yes, so the Akashic Records is it's basically a field of energy. But I think the best way to understand it is the Akashic Records are basically the memories of the universe. Everything which is conscious, everything that takes place in this universe, and I'm not talking about simply the Earth, but also other planets and other solar systems and galaxies, everything is being recorded automatically in great details. So the recording includes not only the sound, the vision, of course, but also the smell and the feelings,
Oh,
which is the most
interesting.
important. Yes.
Interesting.
So when you have when you read the Akashic Records, I mean, you can only feel what the person has been feeling, but also what the people around that person felt at the same time.
How do you get to do that?
Well, I don't know how you do it. I think the author obviously has a special gift. Very few people are capable of doing that, and this is something that that is probably the result of multiple lifetimes experience and work.
I think that's what they use when you do a past life experiences. They go into the Akashic Records, not to the degree that this author goes in, but some people can go into Akashic Records and see what your past life experiences are.
Yes, that's exactly right. I know I had a few personal past life experience. I did some past life regressions a couple of times, and although I was not really able to see much out of the Akashic Records, the person who was guiding me was actually very versed into the reading of the Akashic Records, and she could basically tell me what I was going through.
So
or help me.
when we go into those records while we're still here on this planet, why do people do stuff like that?
Well, that's a different subject. I mean, maybe that's something we can cover in another interview. But I think the reason why you would want to go into your past life or one of your previous life is because you have some issues that you want to fix or you want to work
Something
on.
you don't understand that's going on now in your life.
Yes,
That keeps
yes, some
coming
kind of
up,
disease
or
maybe
right? Yeah.
a disease or malaise,
Mhm.
malaise basically that
Right.
is coming back.
So it's a nice recording that we get
Right.
to go back to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So quite often, people ask, okay, what does the Akashic Records look like? I mean, it's probably a field of very complex energy. During one of my past life regression, that guide basically took me into the Akashic library, per se. And again, the way I perceived it is just an interpretation of my brain, okay? It's definitely not the way it looks in real, or the way it is in real. But basically I saw an immense, like one of the biggest cathedral you could imagine in the world, St. Peter's or the Cathedral of Milan or the Notre Dame in Paris, and there would be little shelves, little niche, and I mean tons of little boxes piled up all the way to the ceiling, And I saw basically creatures that looked like monks, floating in this immense space and grabbing scrolls from one niche and taking it to different places and stuff like that. So, but again, this is not the real description of it. This is just the way my brain interpreted this this energy field, which is probably very complex.
So this reminds me a little bit of what a life review would be like when you pass away.
So you're bringing a very good point with the life review. It has been said in the tradition, basically, that for the next 3 days, 36 hours, depends, a day and a half, 3 days after your death, after the physical death, basically the body or the consciousness reviews some of the most important aspects of the past life, right? The life that just terminated. And this is possible because everything since you are born is being recorded in a very specific organ of your body, which is called an Atom-Germ. And that recorder, we're going to call it a recorder for ease of understanding, is located in the bottom of your left ventricle, in the heart. Yeah. And I think the reason why it's in the heart is because most of the senses are basically based with the blood, right? The blood is the vector of all our emotions, sensations, what we see, what we hear. I mean, it bases the entire body. So by the blood, going through the heart automatically brings all the information back to that specific recorder. Blood being water and being basically capable of memory is capable also of recording everything in this little organ. So this is why it's very important to, at the end of a lifetime, to allow the deceased to spend time within himself or herself, and have this review of the lifetime. It's also very important, and it's crucial not to die from being burnt. And most of the time we don't choose that. But when you are burnt, when your body is calcinated, this little recorder is destroyed. And it is a very big hindrance for your evolution and for your past.
Now, what about people who get cremated?
Well, cremation is okay as long as you wait for the 3 days.
3 days,
to pass,
Okay.
And then, but let's say if you die in an accident, you're burned, basically, some of those records are going to be lost, and it's going to force the angelic realms, and entities on the astral plane to basically piece it back together.
Oh.
They're going to have to do special work by interacting with people that were your peers, or interacted with you during your past lifetimes, and they're going to have to reconstruct
get their recordings basically.
Yes, reconstruct all the recordings. Yeah, so it's an additional burden that you put on their back, and so anyway, most of the time we don't choose how we die, but this is definitely. You should never cremate a body without waiting at least 3 days. And I think the same goes with the embalmment. You should not embalm a body, before a certain time, because again, by extracting the blood, you may damage the recording.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you can tell us a little more about the author.
Yeah, so the author is Daniel Meurois, is the French author. I think he was married with his first wife, Anne Givaudan, and they started writing a bunch of books in, I think, about 1985, 1986, when the New Age was really intense, and in full swing, right before the harmonic convergence of August 1987. So his books were extremely popular in France. I mean, he became I think he's today the most read New Age author in the world.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So he wrote about 40 books. Some of them were written with his first wife. And both of these individuals, Daniel and Anne, are capable of traveling in the astral plane and reading the Akashic Records. Actually, Daniel and Anne were disciples of Yeshua. They were direct disciples, and probably one of the closest disciples of Yeshua. Yeah, his name was Simon at that point. Yeah.
So do you know what her name might have been, or?
I think she was a Miriam.
She was a Miriam.
Yeah, she was a Miriam. There are a lot of Miriams.
Okay.
Yeah. And both, at the end of their lifetimes, basically went to Gaul, which is the previous name of the French country, France, and they were killed by, I think he was killed by Roman, and she died of a disease or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, because the Romans were searching them out.
The Romans were everywhere in Europe, in the Middle East and North Africa, and they were making sure that none of those people were kept alive.
Why is that? Do you know why they didn't want them alive? Like, why were they burning all the books?
Well, there were not too many books, but they were preventing for sure the spreading of the message of Yeshua. Yeah, the oral. Yeah, I don't think there were any books at that time.
Well, there were. There
were some parchments and scrolls.
Right,
yeah.
scrolls. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, as I said, most of the disciples were not capable of writing anything. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it was just hearsay, oral tradition.
But they did find scrolls.
They found scrolls, yeah,
Right.
but written from different eras and from different people. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see, I see.
Yeah.
Are any of these books in English?
No, unfortunately, and you are touching a very good question. Those 40 books have been translated into 17 different languages.
Oh.
17 of them, including languages as obscure as Catalan or Basque.
Which is South Spain.
Yeah, basically
Yeah.
the east and the west part of Spain. And even in Portuguese, in Turkish, German, Spanish, Swedish, but nothing in English.
Why is that?
Yeah, why is that? It makes you wonder what's going on.
It does make you wonder.
It makes you wonder about, the stronghold and the control of the American churches
Right.
on the translation of these books, because they probably consider those books a weapon or a threat
Right.
to their hegemony.
True.
Yeah. So, fortunately, I think currently 3 books are available from that author. One of them relates basically the life of the author in the time of Yeshua. And the other 2 books, one is about the Essenian therapies, and the other one is called The 3 Marys, which is also very interesting as it talks about the memories of 3 pivotal women that were disciples of Yeshua. But we can cover those books during a different interview if you
Yes,
if you want. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
That sounds
But
very interesting.
I will definitely question, why those books are not translated in English. There is definitely something wrong with that.
How do you think this presentation differs from what we'll find in the Bible?
Oh wow, yeah.
In
so
the scriptures and
that's a
that's
tricky,
presented
that's
to all
a
the
tricky
Christians.
question
Yeah.
that you're asking me. Well, to be honest, I think the life of Yeshua, as we intend to present it, is going to rock and shock some of the people who are used to the traditional Bible and the traditional saying of the Bible. It's really different in a lot of respect. I mean, the dates, the ages, and what happened and how it happened are very different. So, the Bible is a result of multiple books, multiple scrolls, multiple pieces of information which have been gathered, written by multiple authors. It's not one apostle or one disciple who wrote everything. A lot of it also comes from other religions. And so basically it's a melting pot which has been done, I hate to say it, but it's some kind of cooking which was finalized in 350 or 370 during the Council of Nicaea in Turkey, where they basically, all the big archbishops and the Pope and everything all met into Turkey to decide how they're going to be moving ahead with that document. And I think it's important to realize that also around the same time frame, the Roman Empire was crumbling, right? I mean, the soldiers, they could not keep the Roman order and the Roman Empire working under the enslavement, taxation, and death, with their army and their military forces. So they had to find another way to control the empire, right? Again, the empire was most of Europe, England, North Africa, the Middle East, Egypt. So you're talking about an enormous piece of real estate. And so the people in Rome, after losing the physical control of this empire, needed to find another way to control the people. And they said, okay, well, maybe we can do mind control by instigating and creating a religion. And because they knew that teachings of Yeshua were very in fashion and people were very excited and interested by that. They said maybe we should take those teachings, modify them, expurge them, refine them.
Kind of sounds familiar today, but
I mean, yeah, you may see it's a
changing
little bit like the
history.
mainstream media, right? And changing
history
history.
is being changed. Yeah.
And then present it, as the truth. And again, let's keep in mind that the Bible has been translated in multiple languages by people. So every time you have a translation, every time you have an interpretation, the personality of the person doing it is funneled into the writings. It's automatic. There is no other way of doing it, okay?
Right.
So the book that we are going to be telling you about, those two books, 1,200 pages, that took 4 years to be written, The author basically was probably traveling in the astral plane and reading the Akashic Memory probably for 6 hours per day, and then, sitting at his bench, at his desk, and retranscribing what he saw, what he felt, what he heard. And so this book is directly coming from the memory of nature. So I would say it's like, in the old days when you wanted to follow a game, right? A baseball game or a football game, but you couldn't go to the stadium. So what would you do in the 1950s when the TV was not around? You were listening to a speaker, right?
On the radio.
Right, some kind of a sport anchor who could describe the game and explain how it took place and so forth. So this is basically what it is. You're comparing the message you got from a professional anchor or professional reporter telling you about the game, but you cannot see it. And you have his own interpretation versus what we're going to try to give you, which is basically as if you were in the middle of the game.
Right.
As a player or as a referee playing the game itself,
Yeah. Being on the field.
Right,
Yeah.
being on the field. Because what the author has been doing is basically feeling, seeing, hearing, feeling the pain and the joy and everything of Yeshua during this life review.
Well, that's so
and
incredible.
transcribing it.
That is really incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Looking forward to hearing more about that experience. So what are the topics of our future interviews you think you'd like to cover?
Well, I think we should cover multiple things. I would like to discuss first of all. I would like to describe a few of the major players. Of course, Yeshua, but his parents, brothers and sisters, and some of the disciples. Some of the Romans characters which have been influential at that time. Some of the Jewish characters as well. And then I would like to talk also about a lot of the information which has been hidden from the official Bible, especially the King James Version, which is probably the more refined. It's like white sugar, right?
Washed and
polished, so that it can be given to an audience.
Right.
And so we will be talking about esotericism. We'll be talking about hermetic knowledge. We will be talking about extraterrestrial influence, because all these points have been extremely pivotal in the life of Yeshua. And without them, there would be no Yeshua as we know it today. So, and then I would like also to talk about, and we'll probably do that in the next interview, present some maps of Galilee and Judea as it used to be, and locate some of the most important little village and town where all the action took place.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to look at that because everything's changed.
Everything
right?
has changed.
Oh, the names
including
have changed.
The names have changed.
Yes.
The locations most of the time are probably, I mean, the locations cannot change too much, but the names have been completely changed, which is making it very difficult.
Yeah, whole
to
different
realize.
landscape.
Yes, totally
Whole
different. Yeah.
landscape, yes. Can you show us the books that we'll be discussing?
With pleasure. So this is the first tome.
Let's see if we can get a better.
Mm.
Yeah.
The light is. So this is le livre secret de Yeshua, Tom 1, Volume 1, basically, right? And the paintings are from Greg Olson. I think he's an American painter. He's quite famous in painting biblical scenes. And
It's beautiful. It's a big, thick book.
it's very big and thick
Wow.
book. And this is the second one, Volume 2, which is close to 600 pages. Okay?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. Well, I look forward to that.
Yeah. So the books, unfortunately, are all in French, and hopefully they will be translated one day. But they come with maps. We're not going to use the same maps because, for
Copyright
reasons. Yeah, we'll probably use our own maps. But we'll be happy to tell you more about it in the next
Wonderful.
session.
Hope you come back. Thank you.